Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just want to make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
You graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
My eyes starting to twitch.
President, can you let him finish?
Why is that?
He doesn't know how to do that. He has.
I know. I know it just started.
Not at the wrong time.
Listen,
We didn't even get to
with
COVID
Bernie
yet.
Sanders.
I know.
Let him.
There is no manifesto. Number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you
to.
have any
And under that
idea
plan,
what
you
this clown's
socialized, they
doing?
call it
Mr.
Do you have any?
I mean, he kind of has a point,
Socialized
though,
medicine.
doesn't he?
I'll tell you what.
I'm just
he
saying
is
he's
not
kind of
for
backpedaling.
any
No?
help
I don't
for
know.
people needing care.
I mean,
Because
if that's his plan, just own up
because he,
to
in
it.
fact,
Just say yes. I believe
already has
Medicare for
cost
all.
10 million people
I mean,
their health
right?
care that they had
But
from
he
their
doesn't want to
employers
say it.
because of his recession. Number one. Number two.
yeah.
He's like
there are
Elizabeth
20
Warren in the
million
primaries
people
when
getting
she
health
wouldn't
care
admit
through
that
Obamacare
taxes
now
would go up
if
under
he
her
wants
plan.
to
Of
take
course
it
they're going to
away.
go up under
He
her plan.
won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them
Number
better
three.
health care at a much lower price because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't
You
know
know?
how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen, you realize if you're both speaking at the same time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president. Go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate.
I think I disagree
We
with both of them on this
guaranteed
issue.
conditions,
I
but
just don't
took
think
away
the government should have
individual
any type of
mandate.
care.
Listen, this is the way it is. And
But-
that destroyed, that they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
And I
known for.
just had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
I got it.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
people- that's what his
So
people
we
said.
do want to get rid of it.
It's
Chris,
an
we
open-
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir,
something
but I have
that's
to
cheaper
give
and
you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care. Of
course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He
Please give him
has
a-
executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about.
I mean, this part's true. There hasn't been
And the
a
fact
feasible healthcare plan. If this was one of Trump's big talking points that he was going to swear on, he should have actually had a plan.
We were talking originally about the Supreme Court here.
Yeah, he's only
Senate
modified what was already
Republicans
there,
go
and then I
ahead
guess you could
and
say
confirm
he's ripped
Justice
down some of
Barrett.
it.
Essentially, what he's done is cut out
Or even
a moderate amount of it, and that's about it.
call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up.
I mean, really, his main thing has
It was brought
been
up by some of
prescription
your
drugs.
Democratic
That's kind of the only thing
colleagues
that,
in
you know,
Congress.
that I can
So my
see that
question to
he's
you,
done
as you
a
have
big
refused
thing with
in the
is,
past to talk about it, are you willing to tell
And that's only because a bunch of his buddies ended up being a bunch of shysters.
or
I don't know who
packing
any of those
whatever
shysters
position
are.
I take in that, that'll become the issue. The issue
A bunch of his billionaire buddies who own pharmaceutical companies.
you're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how
Are you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote now.
You're gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
listen, who is on your list?
I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this
unprecedented.
Pack the court.
We have ended,
We're not going to give a list.
we have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
That's the quote of the night right there.
Man,
Would you shut up, man?
You've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The
Oh, man, you might
second
want to lower your
subject
mic a little bit.
is
It's peaking on my end. I don't know how it
COVID-19.
is on
It's an awfully
theirs.
serious
but-
subject.
Sorry, guys.
Let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7
No, that's the quote of the
million
night. Let's try to be
cases
serious
of
about it.
coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far, and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward.
I'm interested in
this
this.
case,
Let's hear it.
the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected
Trump
in the United
murdered
States.
him with his own,
We,
murdered
in
all of
fact,
them.
have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20%
I mean, let's be real. He could have reacted way faster and way better.
are contracting COVID. In addition to
I
that,
mean, what's better?
about between 750 and 1,000 people today are dying.
Like, we could not be the most infected country
Well, it
when it comes to new cases in the world right now. We could not be that.
has no plan.
If you
He hasn't
trampled
laid
freedom,
out
sure.
anything. He knew
Exactly.
in February.
Sure,
how
if you
serious
force
this
everyone in their
crisis
homes like a
was.
lot of other
He
countries
knew
did,
it was a
Like,
dead.
very true.
then sure,
What did
yeah,
he
we
do?
wouldn't have that many dead.
He's on tape as acknowledging
Yeah,
he knew.
100%.
He didn't
It's
cost or give.
it's
but
you know,
he want to panic.
do you want grandma to live, or do you
Panicked. In addition,
want to go outside?
went in.
And I don't have the answer.
Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan.
Wow.
I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
2
March
minutes.
exactly
So-
what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to
You have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't
that
think
was
we should have
February
closed our
27th.
country.
No,
Wait a minute.
It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be
It's
necessarily
just a matter
on
of
my
liberty
side
and
said
safety.
that.
It's the argument that we've been
President
talking
Trump
about
did a
for months.
phenomenal job.
You know?
We did. We got the gowns. We
What
got
are we
the
gonna
masks.
force people
we
to
made
do?
the
What are we
ventilators. You
gonna
wouldn't have made
make people
ventilators.
do?
And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
Far
There
less
was no
lethal
recession.
disease.
You made a point. Let him answer.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And
You would have been
And by the way,
months late.
your own
You were
his
months
his
behind
own
me,
his
Joe.
own.
I feel like this is
CDC
kind of
director
pointless
says
to talk
we can
about
lose as many
just
as
because.
another
Well, and
200,000
here's why,
people
because
between now
the
and
thing
end
is,
of the
though, a
year.
lot of the
And Hillary
regulations
said, if we
Trump
just
let
wear
up to the
masks, we can
states,
save half those
which
numbers.
I personally
Just a
agreed with.
mask. And by the way,
So a
in
lot of
terms
the
whole
economic
notion of
things
a
that have
vaccine,
happened within
we're
each
for a
state
vaccine, but I don't
was
trust
on the
him at all. Nor
governors.
do you.
You
I
know,
know you don't.
you
What
know,
we trust is a
we've
scientist.
known that over
You
the
don't
past
trust
couple
Johnson,
months with,
Johnson,
you know,
Pfizer.
well, we live in PA. We know all the complaining with Tom Wolf,
Let me
and
move on to
you know, down in
questions
Florida,
about the
you know,
future, 'cause
we
you
saw
both
them
have
open up
touched on
in
one of the
June, and then it
two of the
spiked
questions
because of
I'm
all the
gonna ask.
vacations and people went on.
Focusing on the future
You
for
know,
President Trump,
that has nothing to do with
you
the federal
have
government.
repeatedly
You know,
Yeah, but
been
that's kind of the issue there,
the week before
because when you let the states decide
Dr. Redfield said it was
those things,
before the
then people go from state to state and they end up spreading it around. So even if one state's COVID response was quite good, without shutting the borders of the states, which they're not federally allowed to do,
speed.
you can't avoid it. So leaving it up to the states is honestly a coward's move, and it's something you want to do so that you can push that off to the states.
I wouldn't say it's a coward's move. I would say it's a thing of liberty. I mean, who has the right to force people?
The president of the United
No,
States.
he does not. He has no right. He has no right to force people in their homes for an extended period of time. This isn't communist China.
That's true, but we have
Dr.
we have like the whole
He said it could.
I'm actually missing the word right now, but the emergency powers that the president can tap into, what are those called?
Said it's a possibility that we'll have the answer before
Executive power?
November 1st.
Yeah, that's pretty much situations like this and situations like war. That's what that's designed for.
Well, yeah, that was the same argument with the Pennsylvania House and Senate compared to Wolf. They were challenging his national disaster declaration that gave him executive powers. So it's the same thing on the federal level. I'm curious to see, you know, all the complaints. It's just kind of we're all tossing it on the federal government.
I would say sarcastic.
And so here's the deal.
But the thing is, though, the
This man is
economic
talking
shutdown
about
that we've had
vaccine.
is due to, you know,
Every serious
businesses
company is
being shut
talking
down for an
about
extended period of
maybe having
time.
a vaccine done
Yes, and they would have been shut down for a way less amount of time if
on beginning or the middle of next year to get it out.
something could have been done sooner, faster, more effective.
So if we if we forced everyone in their homes for like a month and a half or 2 months and no one did anything whatsoever and the whole entire country stayed still, sure, yeah. But that's impossible.
Saying the public health
Not really. I mean, other countries.
given the fact
Other
that
countries
polls
are not
already
America.
show that
I'm well aware that other countries aren't America. We are an international laughingstock after
As far
all.
as the size
Harris
itself.
contributing to that.
Militarily, you force people at gunpoint to stay in their house. Come on. I just saw a video today of some guy freaking out at a Subway manager because he wouldn't make his sandwich because he wasn't wearing a mask.
Senator Harris is saying you can't
Give him a
you can't
sandwich.
trust the scientists. You didn't say that. You can't trust
She said the public health
Did say
experts
that.
quote.
So what does that say about us?
Oh, the guy was an idiot. But I'm just saying. One man freaked out over a sandwich.
Yes, that's us. America, the country of angry Subway man.
And by the way,
To the scientists that are in charge,
by the way,
they will have the vaccine very soon.
Let him finish.
do you
I'm not
believe
taking
for
that.
a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on
This is
record as
so
saying it.
stupid. You
He
have a
panicked
previous
or
vice
he just
president
looked at the stock
who
market.
who was criticizing
Because
Trump
guess
for
what?
closing
A lot of
down
people died.
people coming
And a
from
lot more
China
are gonna
in
die unless he
February.
gets a lot smarter,
And he's
a lot
criticizing him for what he did in
President.
February for not being
He
soon.
used the
This
word
is just,
smart.
it's stupid. It's stupid between these
So
two
you
men.
said you went to
That's true, but I can kind of I'm not trying to take Biden's side. Obviously, I'm going to vote for him because I'm so sick of hearing this orange dude's face. Like, just seeing him everywhere is
Yeah.
smart about you, Joe.
sad, and I'm getting really tired of his voice.
Let me just tell you
Never gonna
something,
leave.
Jeff.
No,
If you the show,
But, like, when it comes to
I had a toy-
Biden, right now, he's not getting those,
and by the way,
you know,
built again.
briefings every day
okay.
Mhm.
where every intelligence thing that we have in this country is going to his doorstep.
Yeah.
So Biden knew just about as much as we did
how the
in February.
going forward by
So we can kind of see where that
president.
it's not apples to oranges.
Several of those reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is.
What's the plan?
You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with
More
the
money.
sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to Nancy Pelosi and Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with them in the Senate.
Listen,
He
Republicans
sits-
have a
he
plan to
sits in
spend
his golf
1.5
course.
trillion.
Literally,
Democrats
think
have a
about
plan
it.
to spend 3
More
trillion.
than I do, Joe.
What
Come
about
on.
this question of reopenings and the fact
We need
He
more
wants
trillions.
to shut down this country,
Oh.
and I want to keep
Print
it open.
more.
And we
You
did a
ju-
great
he
thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November
I want to
3rd.
move on to another
Because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to another
I gotta
subject.
respond.
Those states are not doing well that are shut down
which is
right
gotta
now.
respond to that.
Once
President
they shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are okay.
of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rally.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say,
Vice President
Kelly,
Biden, go ahead, sir.
Comments on the size of
The way
the
to open
mask.
businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The
But I
Congress,
was asking you, sir, about masks.
well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
and they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've
I think
also
that
said-
number's
No
bogus.
serious person said the opposite.
How can you even
No,
test
so
that
we'll
theory
listen
out?
to Dr. Fauci.
Especially
Dr.
when-
Fauci said the
First of all, we got restaurants that are open. I wear a mask when I go sit down, and I take it off when I'm at a table.
I mean, it's pretty easy to scientifically test how properly used masks can be effective. It's that whole properly used thing.
Well, the thing
where
is,
you get
would
stuck.
properly used be to get rid of sit-in
Outside,
restaurants
yes, sir.
again for that expended,
Vice
from now
President
until
Biden,
January,
you are
like you just
holding
said?
much
Would that be it?
events
Would it
with
also
nobody
be,
will show up.
back to
people
kind
that-
of limiting
Well,
people
nobody
again?
shows up to it.
I'm just
In
saying
any
because
case, why you holding the
right
big
now
legs,
people
why
are
you
kind of just
not?
using them whenever
You go first,
businesses make them.
Because people want to hear what I have to
I
say.
pretty much use them whenever I'm within
25
people who I'm not with all the time.
airports. We use airports.
Are you not
hangars,
worried
and
about
we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had
Pretty much wear them
problem
whenever
whatsoever.
I'm in a
It's
public
outside.
store
That's a big
because
difference, according
you
to
have
the
to in order to shop.
experts.
But outside of that, I
We
mean,
go
what other
outside,
reason
we
would you
have
use it for?
Tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, every
Ballroom dancing.
and literally on
Ballroom
24 hours
dancing?
notice.
That is
And
You
true.
never know.
Nicholson has 3 people
It's
someplace.
been
By the
been
way,
about a
did you
week
see-
since I've
did
done
you
that.
see
So
one of the last big rallies he has, and a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect, and we've had 35, 40,000
All right,
people
you wanna-
at these rallies.
Just
Yes.
quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would.
That is patently false. There have been people who had who had coronavirus, who went to Trump rallies, and it spread.
All right.
And that is proven. It's on sites. You can look it up.
But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy.
Economy.
I wonder if there's data on
faster
protests.
than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more
Hey man, I'll
of
be
a
right back in
K-shape.
about 2 to 3 minutes. All right.
Difference does that
Okay, I'll hold down the fort.
You hold it
the
down.
American people
Talks
in
among
terms of the
yourself.
economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750.
No, not well, Trump.
Wait, no, sir, it's
It's
his
the wrong state.
I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in a way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. We are going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools. No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out?
Gentlemen, we're going to get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you pay $750 in federal?
You missed hilarious.
Each of those 2 years.
I'm sure there'll be more.
Millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars
sweet, we're on
in income
taxes.
tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers. I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax returns.
Sorry, I just got to comment. Anyone who thinks that he only paid $750 worth of taxes is ridiculous and didn't read the full New York Times article.
118 pages.
Did you read the article?
That says everything I have,
Yeah.
every bank I have, I'm totally
I think he paid
underleveraged because
$5.2
the
million.
assets are extremely good.
If you read,
and we
I
have
took a screenshot of it.
I built a great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is.
let me tell you.
I understand all of that. I understand all of that. No,
I want to see
Mr.
Joe
President,
Biden's
I'm
tax
asking you a
returns. I'm
question.
more interested to seeing
Will you
career
tell us
politicians'
how
tax
much
returns.
you paid in
Joe
federal
Biden
taxes
and
2016.
his running mate released their tax returns for last year, literally like
So not 700
Today?
a couple hours ago.
Oh, I
And you'll
didn't even
get to
look at
see
it. I'll have to
But
look
let
at
me
them.
just tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something that it was the
I don't know
tax
why
laws.
Americans
I
care
don't
about
pay
that. That's
tax
my
because
personal
before
opinion.
I came here,
Like, why
I was
about
a
anyone's?
private
Like,
developer. I was a
I
private
think that they care because a
person.
bunch of millionaires and billionaires get so many tax breaks,
Passed the
and the
tax
idea that a millionaire or billionaire
negotiation
could pay less in taxes
credits. We
than me, a guy who's got a normal job, just seems
but he didn't.
which by the way
ludicrous.
was given to me.
We don't know that because he hasn't released his tax
We're
returns.
going off those
Prior,
2
right after
years.
that happened, but
Vice
that's
President
We know for a
Obama
fact because of all of
Yeah,
his
I do want to
businesses, he
respond.
paid, I think, upwards of like
The tax code
millions of dollars
made him
in
put him in a
payroll
position that
taxes
he
for
pays less tax.
Those are business taxes.
now as far as
than
income
the
tax
money a school
goes,
teacher makes.
he paid
It's because
for extensions
he
of his
says he's smart
1040,
because he
which
can take
totaled about
advantage of the tax
$5.2 million.
And he does take advantage of the tax
And
code. That's
then
why
when he
we're
finally
gonna
did
eliminate
file,
the Trump tax
they
cuts.
were
And
waived.
we're gonna
And instead of
eliminate those
returning that
taxes
money, he
and
then
make
left it
sure
with the
that we invest in
IRS
the
for any
people who, in
future
fact,
income tax
need
reportings.
help.
Now we don't. You're right. We
People
don't
out
have the
there
last
need
3
help.
years
But
or
what
2
did you do
years
over
of tax
the last
returns.
25 years?
But
Because
technically,
why don't you do it?
$5.2 million
Because
he
you are
paid into the
president,
IRS.
things up.
You were a senator, and
You're
by
the
the way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe.
That's a
I've done
bold
more
statement.
In 47
Especially
months,
when we had a
I've done
president
more
that
than
only
you've
was
done in
president for
47
20
years, Joe.
days. I think.
We've done things that you never even thought.
Yeah, but he did great things.
He did a
Fucking
great thing in
military
that
that you
20
gave me,
days.
including taking care
we're
of you.
He did a great thing by, dying.
you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice
I,
your
I
economic
barely know anything about that president.
the elected president focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big
government,
spending.
big
I want to
All
focus.
right, I've got to go to bed.
No.
propose
How dare
more
you?
than $4
How can you sleep when the greatest
trillion
show of all
over a
time
decade
is
in new
on?
taxes.
This is not the greatest show of all time. It's two old men screaming at each other and not following the rules like toddlers.
Kind of an increase
You got
in
2 minutes
taxes
uninterrupted.
is going to
Oh.
it's just coming out of a recession.
No, I want some of his 2 minutes.
The analysis done by Wall Street.
All right.
All
Have
right.
a good night, everybody. Good
All right.
luck.
Thanks for joining.
Would create million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make the federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from
Guess I'm going to talk to
ships
myself
to
unless someone else wants to
steel
join me live on the
buildings and
stream.
like.
If you have a phone,
And
you
under
can do
my
so.
proposal, we're going to make sure that
let
every
me know.
penny of that has to be made by a company
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
Well, by the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the The corporate tax, 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies.
Should be 28, not 21. That's raising.
Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it before when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was your tax proposal.
I got it done, and you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed.
The economy is busted.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Sounds
Not
good.
lower taxes for the American people.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery.
I think it's funny that only Chris Wallace has kind of like done rebuttals to Trump and not Biden.
Recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the
'cause he's being
lights and you
incumbent.
pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look, we inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't booming.
He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest.
Trump blew it when he
made COVID. Is it fair to say he blew it when, in fact, when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
There we go.
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went
That's
in the
not true.
hole.
Excuse me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Do I need to fact check?
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would take a miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing. Part of my standard fare.
I'm the guy that brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having
And they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China.
I wonder how many
than we
times
did
you practiced
before.
that saying,
We have the
art of the
highest
deal, art of the
trade
steal.
deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch.
All right, gentlemen,
18%. China ate your lunch, Joe. And no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars. Takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also, while we're at it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Burisma to deserve $183,000?
You've asked the question, let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh, really? He didn't get $3.5 million?
Mr. President, please.
Totally discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
well, wait, he didn't get $3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
he got $3.5 million.
That is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr. President, it's an open discussion, please.
Now, it's a fact.
Well, you have raised an issue. Let the Vice President answer.
Discredited.
Did Burisma pay him $183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr. President,
my son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
Mr. President, let him answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who? The media?
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our allies, by the World Bank, by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even the people who testified under oath.
So let me ask you this.
No, go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to you.
You got $3.5 million from Moscow.
He testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh, really?
I did it
I'd like to know who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list of the people who testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a good job.
Some people don't do a good job. with you.
Go ahead. You get the, wait a minute. You get the final word. Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me. This.
Hey, let me just say, Joe,
No. I'm Mr. President.
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply.
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million from Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's already.
My family
already
lost
wrote
a fortune by coming down and helping us with government.
sir.
And that's such a.
they're right here.
Mr.
That's such a
President.
Every
great.
single one of them lost.
This is not about my family or his
I
family.
can't
It's
even
about
comprehend
your family.
anything that's
The
being
American
said
million
anywhere.
It
So
doesn't, that's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need, you, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should
All right. That's
Not
the, end
about
of
here.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't
segment.
take
We're,
the money.
we're moving on.
It didn't take them.
Well,
Vice President,
but Chris,
no.
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
He stood up.
No,
He stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you
That
get rid of
is
the
absolutely
you know what, you're-
not
Stop.
true.
You're doing it.
You're going to have,
Hey,
True.
gentlemen.
Is-
I hate to raise my voice,
He's
but
on
it seems
tape.
to be, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the deal.
Good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2
not
uninterrupted
gonna
minutes,
happen.
Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
there's
than,
plenty.
no, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago.
Can we
when
talk
he
about
talked
the "You ain't
very
black"
fine
quote
people on
from
both sides
what was it?
was what directly led you
Some online show he did on
to
the
launch
other
this run for
3 months
president.
ago.
Yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president has ever said anything like that.
Finish this.
It is who's
Now,
who
second,
minutes, sir.
Second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man
I have no idea what
is
these figures
the
are.
savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African-American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism?
did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community. You have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of a town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful protest?
President Trump,
No, it's
I'm not
not,
asking.
but you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment.
Fine.
This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege.
All right, guys. I think I'll let you guys go on
theory.
an actual
Why
streaming
did you
one,
decide
because
to do
without
that, to end racial sensitivity
someone here to
training?
discuss, I don't have much to
do
say.
you believe
This is
that
pretty
there
much
is
the same thing we've been
systemic
listening
racism
to
in this
on the
country,
news
sir?
cycle
I ended
for
it because it's racist. I ended
all
it
summer.
because a lot of people were complaining that they
All
were
right, I guess
asked
we'll
to
see
do
what
things that were absolutely insane.
happens in the next. I
That
think
it
there's about
was a
30 minutes
radical,
left.
revolution
have
that
a
was
good one.
taking place in our military, in our schools.